Introduction. Relationships characterized by narcissism and toxic behavior can be extremely harmful and taxing. Narcissistic relationships are characterized by a lack of empathy, an unhealthy preoccupation with the narcissist's own feelings, and an emphasis on the narcissist's own importance. The narcissist may take advantage of and manipulate their partner in order to maintain power and control over them. Emotional abuse is a common method of power and control in these partnerships. Belittling, mocking, or humiliating the victim, giving them emotional anguish on purpose, or manipulating their emotions to preserve power and control are all examples of emotional abuse. Because of the victim's ongoing emotional upheaval, the abuser might make them feel confined, afraid, and unable to communicate their genuine sentiments. In these kinds of dysfunctional relationships, codependence often emerges. When someone is codependent, they put the narcissist's demands and wants ahead of their own, even if it causes them emotional harm. In time, they become completely dependent on the narcissist's praise and validation in order to feel loved or deserving of love themselves. The codependent partner may rationalize the narcissist's behavior and disregard their own boundaries and requirements. Narcissists frequently resort to gaslighting as a form of manipulation in abusive relationships. The victim's sense of reality is warped to the point where they begin to question their own beliefs, feelings, and experiences. The narcissist may be more or less obvious in their attempts to make the victim doubt their sanity by denying their behaviors or reinterpreting events. The victim's sense of self-worth is eroded by the narcissist's psychological manipulation, leaving them feeling lost and helpless without the narcissist's reassurance and direction. All of these factors contribute to a downward spiral in the relationship. This toxic relationship is maintained by the narcissist's need for control and adulation, and the victim's codependence and openness to gaslighting. The victim may gradually lose faith in their own judgment and observations, as well as their own feeling of self-worth. Leaving a narcissistic and toxic partner can be a difficult but rewarding experience. It's a chance to develop as a person, learn more about oneself, and forge stronger bonds with others. Healing, self-care, and personal empowerment help victims of abuse break the cycle and go forward with their lives. In this book, I will be showing you how to break free from toxic relationships and gain complete freedom. Chapter 1. Exploring the narcissist. Their inflated sense of self-importance and need for external affirmation drive every aspect of a narcissist's character. Because of their exaggerated sense of self-importance, they frequently mistakenly assume they are intrinsically superior to others and actively want to prove this to themselves. Narcissists are characterized by an extreme need to be the center of attention. They're always trying to grab everyone's attention and be the talk of the party. They actively seek out circumstances where they will be praised or admired for their supposed abilities or accomplishments. They act haughtily and boast excessively about their accomplishments so that they can always be the center of attention. Narcissists are also characterized by an inability to empathize with others. Since they are preoccupied with themselves, they have difficulty relating to or understanding the feelings and experiences of others. In the pursuit of material gain, empathy and compassion are frequently abandoned. They have difficulty empathizing with individuals around them because they have trouble understanding and responding to their needs, emotions, and views. Narcissists also tend to feel entitled to special treatment. They consider themselves superior to others and so deserving of favors and adulation as a result of this assumption. They anticipate people will fulfill their every whim and fancy without question. People who feel entitled tend to put their own needs first, disregarding the needs and boundaries of those around them. Narcissists frequently mask deep-seated fears and low self-esteem with a grandiose outward persona. Ironically, they employ their inflated sense of self as a shield against the reality that they are insecure. They take any kind of criticism or perceived insult very personally and often become defensive or angry when their sense of self is threatened. Narcissists frequently resort to manipulating and exploiting others in order to uphold their false sense of superiority. They are experts at utilizing deception, flattery, and charm to achieve their ends. They may seek out people they can use to boost their own esteem, wealth, or standing in society, and use such relationships to their advantage. Narcissism can have far-reaching consequences for the affected person and those in their immediate environment. Narcissists tend to put themselves first, which can cause them to overlook the happiness and sentiments of those around them. They may use others for their own gain by manipulating and exploiting them, causing others' relationships to suffer in their own inner pain. They may become stuck in a never-ending loop of seeking external sources of praise and approval in an attempt to satisfy their insatiable desire for adoration and affirmation. As a result, they may begin to live for the approval of others rather than themselves, which can lead to a superficial and empty life. They may try to fill the void and unhappiness they feel inside by engaging in attention-seeking behaviors and making grandiose displays. Narcissists' inability to empathize with and understand the feelings of others places a considerable strain on interpersonal connections. They may have trouble empathizing with others and may fail to see the validity of their loved ones' experiences and opinions. Because of their tendency to focus solely on their own interests, they frequently create situations where only they end up benefiting. Moreover, their low self-worth makes them extremely sensitive to any criticism or perceived attacks on their identity. Defensiveness, wrath, and even hostility might be sparked by the slightest criticism or criticism at all. The person's grandiose sense of self-importance is safeguarded by this defensive strategy, which also protects them from emotions of inadequacy and vulnerability. Narcissists may have a hard time keeping friends and romantic partners around for the long haul. A lack of genuine intimacy and a pattern of broken relationships might come from their incapacity to create strong emotional connections and their manipulative tendencies. As a result of their tendency to interact primarily for their own benefit and in the context of transactions, they may find it difficult to develop and maintain deep ties with others. Narcissistic qualities can have negative long-term effects on the narcissist and their relationships with others. Short-term benefits in terms of attention and perceived status may be experienced, but the underlying dynamics of their behavior generally lead to undesirable effects. Narcissists, in their pursuit of external approval, risk being mired in an endless pursuit of adulation. Constant unhappiness and the pursuit of self-validation might result from an inordinate desire for praise. It's possible that even after attaining great success, they'll struggle with feelings of emptiness and uncertainty. Their tendency to focus solely on themselves causes their interactions to be superficial and tense. Genuine friendships based on shared experiences, empathy, and understanding can be difficult for narcissists to forge. Their connections are more transactional than relational or emotionally intimate, since they are motivated by self-interest. Over time, this might cause individuals to become socially isolated and emotionally unfulfilled due to a lack of quality interpersonal connections. Narcissist manipulations can have serious consequences for people who are close to them. People who are easily swayed or taken advantage of can fall victim to their charisma and deception. Toxicity in relationships occurs when one person's needs and well-being are consistently undermined or ignored by another person, who could be a friend, family member, or romantic partner. As a result of their excessive demands on other people's time, energy, and resources, relationships with narcissists can become strained. Sometimes they act as if they are entitled to have everything done for them. As a result, relationships may suffer from strained feelings of bitterness and tiredness. Effects of grandiose, vulnerable, and communal narcissism on relationships. The most obvious form of narcissism is grandiosity. People who suffer from grandiose narcissism have an exaggerated opinion of themselves. They need approval from others and would do anything to get it. Grandiose narcissists can be selfish in relationships, prioritizing their own wants and needs over those of their partners. Their incessant need to be admired can put a strain on relationships because when their partners fall short of their high standards, they may treat them with contempt or devalue them. Conversely, low self-esteem and insecurities underlie susceptible narcissism. Individuals with this form of narcissism may come out as timid, overly sensitive, and emotionally fragile. They need praise and acclaim, yet they can't stand being criticized. Vulnerable narcissists may seek continual attention, affirmation, and reassurance from their partners in intimate relationships. As a defense mechanism, they may become overly reliant, demanding, or even manipulative. Because of their extreme sensitivity and fear of criticism, they may have trouble communicating effectively, which can lead to tensions and arguments. Narcissism in the context of a group is more complex than in the individual. In contrast to grandiose narcissism's emphasis on one's own accomplishments, communal narcissists boast about their selflessness and generosity. They have a sense of moral superiority and look for praise whenever they do anything nice. Communal narcissists may act selfishly in relationships while appearing to be helpful. They expect to be admired and praised for their good deeds, even if they go out of their way to serve others. Their spouses may feel forced to praise and applaud their every deed because of their need for validation and the constant reminder of their selflessness. All narcissism is harmful to relationships, but some are worse than others. Trust, communication, and emotional closeness can all be damaged by narcissism of varying degrees, including grandiose narcissism, vulnerable narcissism, and communal narcissism. Some partners experience feelings of being ignored, unappreciated, or unfairly judged. Keep in mind that there is a continuum between these many manifestations of narcissism, and that any given person may display characteristics from more than one of these groups. The detrimental effects of narcissism on relationships can be navigated and even mitigated if one is aware of the dynamics and difficulties unique to each type. The potential for deception and exploitation within narcissistic relationships is another difficulty. To sustain their inflated sense of self-importance, narcissists frequently exhibit a strong desire to control and manipulate those around them. To maintain control and emotional dependence over their spouses, they may resort to gaslighting, guilt trips, or playing the victim. The non-narcissistic partner may feel confined and emotionally drained when trust and agency are eroded over time. Narcissists may also have difficulty in committed relationships and close interpersonal bonds. It can be challenging for them to find lasting happiness in a relationship because of their incessant need for external affirmation and appreciation. They might start cheating or having a string of relationships that don't last very long as they try to find love elsewhere. As the non-narcissistic partner watches their spouse constantly seek approval from others, they may begin to feel inadequate, jealous, or insecure. While these difficulties are often connected with narcissists, it's vital to remember that not everyone who possesses narcissistic qualities acts in the same way. Narcissism can have varying degrees of seriousness and effect on different people. In order to cope with the difficulties of being in a relationship with a narcissist and to discover ways to develop better dynamics, it can be useful to seek professional treatment, such as counseling. How narcissists use techniques like love bombing, gaslighting, and devaluing to dominate and manipulate their partners. Partners of narcissists are often left feeling confused, reduced, and trapped as a result of the narcissist's employment of various psychological procedures designed to exert control. They frequently use a technique known as love bombing, in which they overwhelm their partner with displays of affection and praise in an effort to build a strong emotional connection and exert power over them. Narcissists are experts at projecting an image of perfection in the beginning of a relationship. They completely overwhelm the person they're interested in with continual displays of affection, lavish gifts, and huge gestures. This overbearing display of love helps them bond with their lover and makes them feel dependent on them. The perfect exterior conceals, however, an ulterior motive for manipulation. The narcissist will start using gaslighting techniques once they have the trust and admiration of their partner. The perpetrator of gaslighting distorts reality, denies or downplays their own actions, and causes the victim to question his or her own senses, memory, and sanity. The narcissist destroys their partner's sense of self and encourages dependence on the narcissist's view of reality by gradually introducing subtle contradictions, manipulation, and lies. In the devaluation phase of gaslighting, the narcissist begins to criticize, degrade, and otherwise diminish the value of the victim. It's possible that they'll make fun of them or put down their achievements and skills. To make their spouse feel inferior and unlovable, narcissists systematically chip away at their sense of self-worth. Both the narcissist and their spouse benefit from this devaluation, as it allows the former to keep their partner emotionally weak and the latter to demonstrate their superiority and domination. Emotional manipulation is a key component of the narcissist's ability to control their relationship. They go through phases of idealization and devaluation, which repeats itself in a destructive cycle. Narcissists keep their partners hooked by sporadically showering them with praise and attention in the vain hope that their relationship will once again reach the heady heights of infatuation. This pattern makes it more difficult for the victim to free themselves from the abusive partner. In addition, narcissists are masters at taking advantage of their partner's frailties and inadequacies. They gain further power and control by playing on their victim's vulnerabilities, anxieties, and traumatic experiences. This may take the form of harsh criticism, rejection by loved ones, or monetary manipulation. The narcissist keeps their power and their partner's submission by making the other person feel helpless and dependent on them. These deceptive actions are part of a larger pattern of behavior typical of narcissists and should not be taken as isolated instances. Devastating to the victim's mental well-being, the cumulative effects of love bombing, gaslighting, and devaluation can often result in anxiety, sadness, and a loss of self-identity. It can be quite difficult to spot a narcissistic partner, and even more difficult to break free from their grip. The victim may need the help of loved ones or specialists to rebuild their confidence, set healthy boundaries, and escape the controlling environment. Narcissists may use more ways besides those already described to exert dominance and control over their spouses. These strategies are employed to keep their position of dominance in the relationship intact while simultaneously reducing the victim's sense of control over their own lives. Narcissists frequently engage in triangulation, which is fabricating a rival or creating distance between the two partners. They may engage in emotional or even physical affairs with other people or constantly find fault with their partner by holding them up to unreasonable standards. The narcissist manipulates their relationship by making them anxious and insecure, making them crave their approval and attention. Narcissists also employ seclusion as a tactic. They purposefully cut off their partner's access to social and professional resources. The narcissist assumes full command by cutting off their partner's connection to other people and their own sense of worth. Isolation strengthens the victim's dependence and makes it harder for them to see the connection for what it really is: harmful. Partners of narcissists are often subjected to guilt trips and other forms of emotional blackmail in an effort to maintain power. They may employ strategies like blaming their partner for their problems, playing the victim, or emotionally manipulating them. The narcissist keeps power and avoids responsibility by deflecting blame and manipulating others into feeling guilty. Ultimately, it takes courage, endurance, and self-compassion to break free from a narcissistic partner's deception and control. There will be ups and downs as you travel the path of self-awareness and healing. Narcissistic abuse survivors can recover their sense of self, rebuild their life, and find future love and happiness by putting themselves first, reaching out for help, and practicing self-care. Chapter 2. Understanding Toxic Relationships. Understanding the warning signs of a destructive relationship is important for one's health and development. Toxic relationships can encompass emotional abuse, manipulation, and control. Understanding what makes up a toxic dynamic in a relationship is essential for successfully navigating the complexities of such connections. A lack of respect for boundaries is an early indicator of a potentially dangerous relationship. Boundaries are ignored or crossed on purpose in these types of relationships. The other person in your life may repeatedly disregard your needs, invade your space, and attempt to exert dominance over you. The partnership is clearly toxic if there is no respect for personal space. Another characteristic of abusive relationships is the use of emotional abuse. Several forms of verbal abuse that aim to lower a person's self-esteem can fall under this category. The victim of emotional abuse may be made to feel responsible for the abuser's conduct or to harbor feelings of guilt or shame. They may try to derail your progress or push you away from your loved ones, ultimately making you feel dependent on them. Toxic partners often manipulate to increase their influence and control in relationships. They might use techniques like gaslighting to make you question your recollection, reasoning, and sanity. People who are manipulative will often use emotional blackmail or other forms of manipulation to obtain what they want, regardless of how it makes you feel. One characteristic of controlling relationships is that they are harmful. The toxic partner may attempt to regulate every element of your life, from the way you spend your time to the people you talk to. They could restrict your social interactions, fashion choices, and even where you go and what you say. Your independence and sense of agency will suffer under such strict supervision. The end result of many abusive relationships is social isolation. Your partner's toxic behavior could cause you to withdraw from or abandon your support system. They may attempt to isolate you from your friends and family in an effort to gain your undivided attention. Being cut off from the rest of the world only strengthens your dependence on them and exacerbates the toxicity of the relationship. Another hallmark of a toxic relationship is an ongoing power disparity. The toxic partner typically makes all the decisions, doesn't care what you want, and blames everything but themselves when things go wrong. They may place the blame on you instead of taking responsibility for their own actions or seeking ways to grow as a person and fixing the issues in the relationship. If you're in a toxic relationship, you could start to feel worse about yourself as time goes on. Feelings of worthlessness or self-doubt may set in when your self-esteem and confidence plummet. You may feel like you have to continually tread carefully around your toxic relationship so as not to incur their wrath. Arguments or confrontations that frequently escalate into an emotionally charged state are another indicator of a poisonous relationship. Control issues, fights for authority, and exaggerated concerns over minor items frequently come up as flashpoints in such conflicts. Partners that are toxic to one another may resort to hostile behaviors such as yelling, screaming, or even physical violence. Feelings of emotional instability and inconsistency are also common in toxic relationships. Your significant other may swing from love bombing, exaggerated shows of passion and charm, to aloofness, apathy, or animosity. The ups and downs of your emotions might leave you feeling lost, worried, and needy for their approval and affirmation. In addition to the emotional cost, being in a toxic relationship can stifle development and make it difficult to go forward with your life aspirations. Constant criticism, dominance, and manipulation can sap your strength and inspiration, leaving you feeling trapped and unable to thrive. Your toxic partner may try to derail your dreams by putting down your accomplishments or planting seeds of self-doubt in your mind. A toxic partner is not something that can be fixed or altered. They don't need you to fix them or put up with their bad behavior. Toxic people are notoriously stubborn and unwilling to make any kind of adjustments to their behavior. For the sake of your own safety, you should prioritize ending the connection, even if doing so is tough. Getting out of a bad relationship can be hard on your emotions. The emotions of guilt, dread, and grief are all possible outcomes. You can find a fortitude and bravery to leave a toxic relationship if you have a support system of friends, family, or professionals who are familiar with the dynamics of such relationships. Taking care of yourself and starting over are top priorities after making the decision to leave. If you've suffered emotional scars, talking to a therapist or counselor might help you recover your sense of self-worth. Discovering who you are and what you're here for might be aided by doing things that make you happy and pursuing your own interests. The dynamics of the abuse cycle and the obstacles survivors face in breaking free. It can take time for the signs of an abusive relationship to become obvious. At first, the abuse victim may feel hope and attachment to the abuser because of the abuser's charming, affectionate, and seemingly genuine moments of love. During this time, the abuser seems very nice and generous, giving the victim a false sense of security. The relationship has been deteriorating for some time now, and the stress is rising as a result. A pattern of more controlling, manipulative, and erratic behavior on the part of the abuser emerges. The abuser may make the victim feel worthless by ridiculing, insulting, or isolating them. The victim's fear and anxiety rise, and they begin to worry about when the next violent outburst will occur. The mounting tension eventually leads to an outburst of violence. Different types of this exist, including but not limited to physical violence, verbal and mental abuse, sexual assault, and monetary blackmail. The victim is left emotionally and mentally scarred and entrapped by false beliefs that they were at fault or deserve what happened to them. The abuser may then make an extensive apology, in which they show regret, promise to change, and attempt to make the victim feel guilty or sorrow for them. After an abusive episode, the abuser may attempt reconciliation in an effort to recover power. They may try to appease the victim's gnawing need for love and security by showering them with apologies, gifts, and declarations of undying devotion. The victim may stubbornly believe the abuser will change, clinging to empty promises and clinging to the few moments of kindness they have received. Abuse creates a never-ending loop of confusion and distress because it involves distinct phases: the honeymoon, the building of tension, the explosion, and the reconciliation. As the abuse continues, the victim's sense of value diminishes, making it harder for them to imagine a future for themselves apart from the abuser. They may feel helpless because they worry about being harmed or losing everything if they try to leave the situation. Leaving an abusive partner is also rarely an easy choice. The victim could have to deal with a lot of obstacles and difficulties. It's not easy to leave an abusive relationship because of factors like financial reliance, lack of social support, cultural or religious pressures, guilt and self-blame, fear of retaliation, and worries about child custody or disrupted family dynamics. The abuser may also manipulate the victim's perceptions and feelings to make it difficult for them to break free. Victims of gaslighting, manipulation, or psychological indoctrination may start to question their own judgment and confidence in their ability to make it on the outside of the abusive relationship. The decision to leave an abusive relationship is further complicated by the victim's emotional and psychological attachment to the abuser. Despite the abuse, the victim may continue to harbor feelings of love for the perpetrator. There is a strong desire to save the relationship because of the emotional investment and the occasional reinforcement of pleasant experiences throughout the honeymoon phase. Victims of abuse frequently report feeling devalued and lacking in confidence. They lose faith in themselves and their ability to make positive changes because of the abuser's continual criticism, degradation, and devaluation. The abuser may make the victim feel helpless, as if they would perish or fail to thrive without their constant presence. Because the victim either sees no way out or believes that getting out will be too difficult, this form of deception strengthens the victim's conviction that leaving is impossible. Victims are kept captive in part by the abuser's use of seclusion. The sufferer may be isolated from their social network, which leaves them vulnerable and with a warped view of the world. Isolation compounds the difficulty of escaping an abusive relationship by heightening the victim's sense of powerlessness and strengthening their dependency on the abuser for emotional support. Victims of abuse often develop a strong emotional relationship with their abusers as a result of the traumatic experiences they've had. Abuse frequently results in a victim's developing a sense of learned helplessness or the conviction that they can do nothing to improve their condition. Because of the strength of this conviction, they may find it challenging to see a future free from abuse or to take the actions necessary to leave the relationship. Victims confront additional obstacles while attempting to flee, including financial ones. The abuser may attempt to control the victim's finances, keeping them and their children monetarily dependent on the abuser. This kind of financial control can make it extremely challenging for victims to leave and start a new, safe life elsewhere. Abuse is a complex and pervasive problem, and so are the obstacles victims confront when attempting to break the cycle. The emotional, psychological, financial, and practical difficulties victims face must all be taken into account. We can end the cycle of abuse and give victims the chance to rebuild their lives by providing them with the help, resources, and information they need to feel safe, healed, and empowered. Chapter 3. Emotional Abuse. Emotional abuse often includes verbal aggression, in which the abuser uses demeaning language to undermine the victim's sense of self-worth. They may use derogatory language, such as calling the victim names, shouting at them, or being constantly critical of them. These attacks on the victim's dignity can be direct, like an outright insult, or indirect, like a sarcastic remark or a backhanded compliment. Another form of harmful emotional abuse is humiliation, in which the abuser intentionally makes the victim feel ashamed and embarrassed. This can happen in secret or in public, and it always serves to diminish the victim's sense of worth. Making fun of the victim's looks, intelligence, abilities, or personal choices are all examples of humiliation. The abuser gains power and control over the victim's emotions and behavior by reducing the victim's sense of worth. Isolation is a tactic used by emotional abusers to deprive their victims of social support and increase their reliance on the abuser. The abuser may purposefully cut the victim off from communicating with loved ones and other people who could provide them with perspective and solace. The victim may be isolated by restricting their ability to contact with others, by monitoring their communications, or by physically preventing them from leaving their home. The abuser keeps power over the victim's thoughts, feelings, and behavior by isolating them. Since emotional abuse is multifaceted, it frequently takes more than one of these forms to manifest. Emotional abuse can have devastating effects, including the induction of long-term emotional trauma, diminished self-esteem, elevated levels of anxiety and despair, and a warped perception of one's own identity. Those who have been victim to emotional abuse may have trouble trusting others, finding it hard to form healthy connections, and even internalizing the damaging messages they have received. In emotional abuse, gaslighting is a technique used to make the victim question their own thoughts and beliefs. The abuser may fabricate evidence, downplay or deny their role in the victim's distress, or routinely discount the significance of the victim's feelings and observations. The abuser gains control over the victim's reality by creating doubt, fear, and insecurity in the form of lies. Manipulation is another insidious kind of emotional abuse. The abuser may use many strategies to exploit the victim's vulnerabilities, anxieties, or desires to manipulate their ideas, emotions, and actions. They may employ guilt-tripping, emotional blackmail, or intentional withholding of affection to exert control over the victim. Manipulation can be subtle or overt, and it typically results in the victim feeling imprisoned, pressured, and unable to make independent choices. Invalidation entails ignoring or undermining the victim's emotions, needs, or experiences. The abuser may devalue their sentiments, ridicule their concerns, or continually denigrate their successes or ambitions. By dismissing the victim, the abuser erodes their self-worth and undermines their faith in their own judgment. Over time, the victim may learn to distrust their own emotions and may struggle to trust their own views. It's crucial to understand that emotional abuse can occur alongside other forms of abuse, such as physical or sexual assault. It is generally a method used to keep power and control over the victim, leaving them feeling imprisoned and unable to exit the poisonous dynamic. If you feel you or someone you know is experiencing emotional abuse, it's crucial to get treatment and support. Talking to a trusted friend, family member, or professional counselor can provide guidance and aid in navigating the tough process of healing and breaking away from the abuse. Remember, everyone deserves to be treated with respect, kindness, and understanding in their interactions. No one should endure emotional abuse, and seeking treatment is a key step towards recovering one's emotional well-being and forging a brighter future. How victims of emotional abuse feel about themselves, how their mental health is, and how their lives turn out in the long run. The loss of pride in oneself is a terrible effect of emotional abuse. Criticism, humiliation, and belittling someone on a regular basis can erode their self-esteem and feeling of value. The victim may start to believe the abuser's negative messages about how worthless, unlovable, or deserving of mistreatment they are. This warped view of oneself can follow survivors into future relationships, making it hard for them to trust others or speak up for their own needs. The mental health also suffers from emotional maltreatment. As a result of the persistent psychological stress, victims may eventually develop conditions including anxiety, depression, or PTSD. Hypervigilance can result from the constant worry of doing something to make the abuser angry or disapprove, making it difficult for survivors to let their guard down and feel safe. The psychological discomfort may be compounded by persistent thoughts, flashbacks, or dreams relating to the abuse. A person's emotional health might be adversely affected by emotional abuse. It can be difficult for victims to take care of themselves, putting their own mental and physical well-being at risk. Headaches, stomach aches, and sleep difficulties are just some of the physical manifestations of the stress and emotional upheaval that many people experience on a regular basis. The damage to their mental health can also make it difficult for them to continue engaging in rewarding hobbies, maintaining positive relationships, or even just getting out of bed some mornings. The road to healing from emotional abuse is long and winding. Seeking professional help through therapy or counseling is a common part of the healing process. Rebuilding a support system may also require establishing appropriate boundaries in relationships and learning to recognize them. Survivors can recover their sense of self-worth, mental health, and general well-being with time and help. It is crucial for society to acknowledge the lasting impacts of emotional abuse and give survivors with adequate resources and assistance. We can help create a society that condemns emotional abuse and gives people the resources they need to recover and prosper if we spread information, encourage learning, and encourage compassion. Emotional abuse can have far-reaching consequences in many areas of a person's life, including their academic and professional development. Academic or professional success can be hampered by the victim's experience of frequent devaluation and invalidation throughout abuse. Those who have experienced trauma may doubt their own strength, avoid difficulties, and accept less than they deserve. The damage to their sense of worth and confidence may prevent them from reaching their full potential in life. Long-term impacts of emotional abuse might include changes in how a victim views him or herself and the world. A warped sense of self-worth and an overwhelming sense of shame and guilt are common outcomes for victims of emotional abuse who internalize the negative messages they receive. They may have persistent self-doubt, worry excessively about what other people think of them, and believe they aren't deserving of pleasure and love. The effects of this skewed view of oneself extend to many facets of one's development and happiness. Victims of emotional abuse may feel incapable of or unworthy of achievement, which can make it difficult for them to follow their passions and achieve their goals. The victim may find it difficult to take risks or fully explore their potential due to the ingrained fear of failure brought on by the frequent criticism and undermining experience throughout the abuse. How to recover from the damage caused by emotional abuse. The first step is to give your feelings some respect and attention. Feel whatever emotions the abuse brings up in you, whether they be pain, rage, despair, or confusion. Accepting and working through your feelings of loss and sadness is an integral component of the healing process. Care for and be kind to yourself as a next step. Be nice and understanding with yourself. Do things that make you happy, calm down, and feel good about yourself. Take care of your body and mind by getting enough sleep, eating healthy, exercising, and talking to people you trust if you're feeling down. Think about going to therapy or counseling to heal from the abuse's emotional wounds. A qualified expert can help you through the healing process by giving you direction, affirmation, and support. Insight, coping mechanisms, and restored self-esteem are only some of the benefits of therapy. Get in the habit of establishing and maintaining limits. As emotional abuse frequently entails boundary violations, it is essential to practice assertiveness and clear expression of demands. Believe in yourself, your value, and your worth, and don't put up with disrespect of any kind. Take some time for contemplation and reflection to learn more about who you are. Consider your abilities, beliefs, and goals. Developing a sense of self apart from the abuse might be facilitated by journaling, meditation, or other creative pursuits. Make an effort to surround oneself with positive, encouraging individuals. It's important to surround yourself with supportive people who can help you grow and recover. Keep your distance from any negative influences, whether they're other people or their surroundings. It may take time to rebuild trust in yourself and others, but you can do it. Gain confidence in your own ability to make sound decisions and follow your gut first. Follow your gut and acknowledge how you truly feel. As time goes by and you feel better, you can slowly start opening up and trusting others again. As you rebuild your life after experiencing emotional abuse, it may be helpful to discover new areas of interest to you. You can rediscover your strengths and your joy in life by taking up hobbies that bring you a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Taking on a new challenge, whether it's learning a new skill, changing careers, or starting a new pastime, can give you confidence and a new outlook on life. Learn to forgive yourself and release any negative emotions you may be feeling as a result of the abuse. Realize that the abuser is totally to blame, and give yourself the care and understanding you deserve. Put an end to beating up on yourself, and realize that you deserve love and joy. It's important to find a healing modality or technique that works for you as your recovery progresses. Meditation and other forms of mindful practice can help you find calm within and strengthen your emotional fortitude, and they may be part of the answer. Some people find that other methods of dealing with their feelings, such as art therapy, music therapy, or trauma-informed treatments, are helpful. Welcome the opportunity to rebuild your sense of self. Without the confines of your abusive background, you should give yourself permission to discover and pursue your passions, values, and aspirations. Focus on introspection and development to strengthen your sense of identity and create a future in line with your hopes and dreams. Keep in mind that overcoming the effects of emotional abuse will seem different for everyone. Take things slowly and gently with yourself as you go through the ups and downs. Acknowledge and reward yourself for any and all improvement and success along the path. Believe in the strength of forgiveness, both for yourself and the abusers. The act of forgiving another person is very personal, and it does not imply dismissing or diminishing the wrong done. Rather, it's a conscious decision to stop carrying around the negative emotions that are preventing you from moving on with your life. With the help of forgiveness, you can release yourself from the burden of previous hurts and move on with your life. Spend time doing things that make you happy and help you make sense of your experiences. Journaling, artistic or written expression, and therapeutic approaches tailored to the needs of trauma survivors and those on the road to emotional recovery are all possibilities. Give yourself permission to experience and express your feelings at your own rate, and respect the tempo of healing that resonates with you. Never forget that getting better is a process, not an end goal. Keep your cool while you ride out the highs and lows. Acknowledge the effort and perseverance it has taken to recover from emotional abuse, and rejoice in even the smallest victories. Accept the chance for personal development and change, and trust that you can shape a life that brings you happiness and success. Chapter 4. Overcoming codependency. Codependency shows up in different ways in unhealthy relationships. Codependent people often go to extreme measures to maintain their relationships because they are plagued by an overwhelming fear of rejection or abandonment. They may put their partner's or loved one's pleasure and well-being ahead of their own, even at the expense of their own needs, wishes, and boundaries. Codependents often have low self-esteem and seek approval from others too frequently. They need other people, especially their partner, to make them feel good about themselves. A vicious cycle of seeking external affirmation can develop, which can be emotionally draining for both parties. Codependency can also lead to unhealthy levels of control and intertwining between partners. The codependent person may feel obliged to serve as a caretaker for their spouse, taking on responsibility for their decisions, behaviors, and feelings. They may get overly invested in organizing and directing their partner's life, to the detriment of their own well-being. The poisonous nature of the relationship is perpetuated when one partner exerts excessive control over the other and becomes overly dependent on them. Enabling behaviors frequently occur with codependency, as the codependent person may unwittingly promote their partner's damaging practices. They may try to protect their partner from the results of their actions, make excuses for them, or even condone hazardous or addictive behaviors. This type of behavior might contribute to the dysfunctional cycle and keep both people from seeing the problems that keep their relationship unhealthy. Getting away from codependency and unhealthy bonds calls for thoughtful introspection and a determination to better oneself. Learning to put one's own needs first, establish appropriate limits, and cultivate an internalized feeling of worth are all part of this process. People who suffer with codependency can greatly benefit from counseling or support groups, which can help them overcome their condition, build healthier relationships, and improve their sense of identity. Codependency and toxic relationships often form a self-perpetuating cycle that is difficult to escape. Codependent people often stay in destructive relationships despite their own emotional pain because they feel imprisoned and afraid of being alone. On the other hand, the toxic spouse may take advantage of the codependent's vulnerabilities and neediness, thereby maintaining the dynamic of power disparity and control. Codependent relationships are extremely harmful to one's mental and physical health. As they put the connection before their own wants and feelings, codependents are at risk for developing tension, anxiety, and depression. As their lives become centered on their spouse, they risk developing a skewed sense of self and losing touch with who they truly are as individuals. Long-term codependence has been linked to a decline in self-worth, lack of confidence, and the inability to act autonomously. Codependent people have a tendency to lose sight of their own needs in favor of those of their significant others. Negative emotions like anger and irritation, as well as a general lack of satisfaction in life, might result. Individuals who wish to free themselves from the bonds of codependence must develop a strong sense of self-love, self-compassion, and self-awareness. This requires overcoming any feelings of guilt or abandonment in favor of learning to stand up for oneself, speak clearly, and put one's own needs first. It also demands building relationships with reliable people who can be there for you when you need emotional support, advice, or affirmation. Setting healthy boundaries, getting outside treatment, and maybe breaking up with a toxic partner may all be necessary steps towards recovering from codependency. The patterns of codependency can be deeply ingrained and may recur in future relationships if they are not addressed. Therefore, it's vital to remember that rehabilitation is a long and continuing process. Individuals can reclaim their independence, rediscover their identities, and foster healthier, more balanced relationships with others once they recover from codependency and toxic relationships. As a result, it allows people to surround themselves with people who care about them and who will help them grow emotionally and intellectually. It is common for people to learn the value of introspection and self-examination as they go on the path to recovery from codependency and damaged relationships. This requires them to investigate their wants, values, and priorities on their own terms. It could mean prioritizing self-reflection, self-care, and the pursuit of values and passions. Creating strong boundaries is crucial in overcoming codependency. Respecting the limits of others necessitates first understanding and then asserting one's own. It entails prioritizing one's own well-being without feeling guilty about it or worrying that others would forsake one if they do so. In order to fully recover from codependency, it is necessary to deal with the underlying problems and traumas that initially precipitated the condition. Counseling and other forms of therapy can help people feel comfortable opening up about their lives, dealing with difficult emotions, and gaining new perspectives via shared experiences. Therapists can aid patients in building resilience, reevaluating destructive thought patterns, and cultivating more positive perspectives. A solid social network and emotional support from loved ones can also be invaluable assets on the road to recovery. Having friends and family who accept you for who you are, who will respect your boundaries, and who will promote your development can help you feel accepted and loved. Sharing your experiences with others who have been there will help you feel less alone and more understood. How to recognize your own and your partner's codependent actions. It takes some serious introspection to spot the codependent tendencies, both in oneself and one's relationship. It entails being aware of and taking stock of behaviors, feelings, and relationships that may be telltale signs of codependency. Here's a fictional dive into the subject. Self-awareness is the first and essential skill to develop. Start with being self-aware about how you're approaching your relationships from a mental and emotional standpoint. People who are codependent have a tendency to put the demands of others ahead of their own because they feel a strong need to ensure the satisfaction and well-being of others around them. Think about whether you frequently compromise your own wants and needs in order to make your significant other happy, crossing personal boundaries and failing to take care of yourself. Be aware of your own enabling and caring tendencies. One symptom of codependency is putting the needs of others before your own to the exclusion of all else. This can cause an unhealthy preoccupation with your partner's approval and validation. Take note of if you routinely put other people's wants and needs above your own, even if doing so is harmful to you. Think about how you feel. Anxiety of being alone and rejected are common causes of codependency. Note the emergence of insecurities, anxiousness, or feelings of unworthiness in your interactions. Think about how dependent you are on your partner's approval for your sense of self-worth, and how tough it is for you to stand up for what you want. Explore the dynamics of interaction in the realm of communication. Poor boundaries and an inability to express wants and emotions honestly are two characteristics of codependent relationships. Consider whether you are someone who avoids arguments, represses their emotions, or hesitates to voice their disagreements for fear of their partner's reaction. Take note of whether you have a constant need for reassurance or if you have trouble being forceful. Pay attention to cycles of dependence and control. It's possible that people who are codependent have a hard time letting go of control. Consider whether your partner's outside interests and friendships make you apprehensive or uneasy. Be aware of any tendencies you may have towards micromanaging or obsessively monitoring their behavior in an effort to control their lives. Think about how you'd feel if the relationship ended. Codependency has been linked to unhappiness and a lowered feeling of self-worth in the absence of the spouse. Think about whether or not you enjoy time spent alone, and if you have friends and family who aren't dependent on your partner. Take note of any feelings of disorientation or emptiness you have when they're not around. Keep your eyes peeled for external manifestations of the codependent tendencies you've recognized in yourself. Pay attention to whether or if your partner has an unhealthy preoccupation with your approval, has difficulty setting limits, or constantly puts your wants before their own. Consider that the maintenance of the codependency is a dynamic in which both people participate. Investigate how dependence developed. Our habitual approaches to interpersonal interactions are frequently formed by our upbringing and formative experiences. Childhood problems, substance abuse, or neglect can all play a role in the development of codependency. Think about how your attachment style and your need for external validation and acceptance may have been impacted by these incidents. Think about how fear and power play a part. Fear of desertion or loneliness is a common root cause of codependent behaviors. You may think that if you manage and take care of other people, you will be able to guarantee their affection and presence in your life. And this fear may motivate you to do just that. Check to see if you or your partner engages in controlling behaviors like constant surveillance, breaching personal space, or extreme jealousy. Analyze recurring states of combined emotion. In a codependent relationship, boundaries between the couples tend to blur, and each person can wind up feeling less like themselves. Consider if you or your partner has a hard time retaining your individuality while being in a relationship. Do you lose sight of your own wants, ambitions, and interests in favor of those of your partner? Learn from the pattern of caregiving and resentment. Codependents frequently get stuck in a caring rut, prioritizing their partner's needs over their own. But eventually, that can make you bitter and exhausted. If you or your partner experience resentment, it's important to examine the dynamics that led to such feelings. Think about the significance of pride and self-worth. A lack of self-esteem and the conviction that one's value is contingent on the approval and acceptance of others are common causes of codependency. Think about how your sense of self-worth affects your interactions with others. Do you have trouble putting your own needs first and speaking out because you're afraid of being ignored or abandoned? Keep an eye out for enabling tendencies. In a codependent relationship, one partner may enable the other's unhealthy or destructive habits. Think about whether you or your partner engages in supportive activities, such as rescuing, downplaying consequences, or rationalizing bad behavior. Investigate the hopes and concerns that are really behind these actions. Keep in mind that introspection and self-awareness are never-ending practices. It's crucial to go into this investigation with an open mind, compassion, and patience. Participating in therapy or counseling can give a safe space for increased self-awareness, healing, and the creation of more constructive patterns of interaction with others. Self-improvement, including the development of healthy boundaries, self-care, and genuine expression, is an absolute necessity on the road to recognizing and overcoming codependent behaviors and thought patterns. Research common methods of interaction. Communication problems are a common cause of conflict in codependent relationships. Ask yourself and your partner if you two have trouble being open and communicating your feelings, opinions, and needs to one another. Take note whether you or your spouse tend to use manipulation, avoidance, or passive-aggressive tactics. Strengthening one's capacity for honest and aggressive dialogue helps improve interpersonal relationships. Keep in mind that recognizing and treating codependent behaviors and thought patterns requires self-awareness, compassion, and a commitment to change. Relationships built on mutual respect, independence, and emotional well-being are the goal of this journey, which involves work and introspection on your part. Overcoming codependency. Think carefully about your personal requirements, preferences, and limits. To better understand the effects of codependency in your life, think back on past events and relationship patterns. Consider your relationship goals and the level of tolerance you're willing to exercise. Emotional intelligence can be fostered by first becoming attuned to and then expressing one's own feelings. Learn to identify and name your emotions without condemnation. You'll be able to express your requirements and set reasonable limits after doing so. Take time for yourself and make self-care a top priority. Do things that make you happy, calm down, and satisfied. Self-compassion entails being gentle and respectful to oneself. Always keep in mind that prioritizing your own health and happiness is not a sign of selfishness. Set limits. Determine what you won't accept and state them firmly. Master the art of saying no when necessary and establishing personal boundaries. Hold people to the same standards you hold yourself to. Create a network of people who believe in you and want to see you succeed. This could include family and friends, but it could also include support groups. Make friends with people who care about you and have a good grasp of the dynamics of healthy relationships. Foster autonomy by working on your own sense of self outside of your connections with others. Don't be afraid to put time and effort into developing yourself and following your interests. Developing self-sufficiency reduces your need for approval from others. Active listening, empathy, and assertiveness are all abilities that can help you communicate more effectively. Master the art of making one's feelings and needs known in a direct and polite fashion. Maintain an atmosphere of trust and openness in your relationships. Recognize the role that your actions have in maintaining the codependent relationship. Recognize when you're trying to control or rescue other people. Learn to let other people be who they are and make their own mistakes without trying to change them. Seek professional help. Think about making an appointment with a therapist or counselor who has experience dealing with codependency. The therapeutic environment can be a secure place to work through difficult feelings, gain perspective, and learn new ways of relating to others. Self-acceptance entails loving and accepting oneself despite one's flaws and failings. Stop being so hard on yourself and focusing on what other people think. Developing a solid foundation for happy partnerships begins with learning to accept yourself. Keep in mind that recovering from codependency is a long and difficult journey. Take it easy on yourself and applaud your progress as you make it. You can improve your relationships and your emotional wellness with dedication and introspection. Chapter 5. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation in which one person attempts to convince another that they are mistaken about some aspect of their reality or their own value. As a type of mental torture, its impact on its victims can be devastating and long-lasting. One of gaslighting's most pernicious effects is undermining a victim's faith in their own perceptions. The victim's perceptions, memories, and emotions are relentlessly questioned and delegitimized by the gaslighter, causing them to question their own sanity. Confusion, self-doubt, and an inflated perception of one's own reality are possible outcomes. The victim may start to doubt their own perceptions and learn to rely too heavily on the gaslighter's story. When someone is gaslight, their sense of value and pride in themselves are diminished. The gaslighter is relentless in their criticism, leaving the victim feeling helpless and devalued. The victim's self-assurance is chipped away by the gaslighter's relentless assault of negative messages until they feel imprisoned, helpless, and reliant on the gaslighter for validation and approval. The psychological effects of gaslighting can build up over time. Emotional abuse can lead to mental health problems like anxiety, depression, and PTSD in its victims. They may start to feel on edge and anxious and develop a tendency to overwatch their surroundings. The gaslighter's manipulation can cause the victim to withdraw from their usual social circles, heightening their sense of helplessness and abandonment. A person's trust in others may also suffer as a result of being gaslight. Victims of gaslighting may become distrustful and suspicious of others as a result of the perpetrator's continuous breach of their confidence. As a result of being programmed to question their own judgment and dread being duped again, people may find it difficult to develop healthy relationships. The mental effects of being gaslight can be just as devastating as the emotional ones. Due to the gaslighter's frequent mental manipulation and confusion, victims may have trouble focusing, remembering, and making decisions. The first step towards healing from gaslighting is realizing what happened. It's important for victims to get back in touch with reality and reestablish their sense of value. Victims can find support, have their feelings validated, and work on coping mechanisms in a therapeutic or counseling setting. In addition, it's crucial to surround yourself with supportive friends and family members who can offer empathy and compassion. Although overcoming the effects of gaslighting requires time and perseverance, it is achievable. Victims can recover their sense of self and start over with confidence and self-worth by recovering their autonomy, creating boundaries, and reestablishing their own truth. Victims of gaslighting should practice self-care and self-compassion as part of their healing process. Self-validation means learning to recognize and accept one's own emotions and experiences. Building confidence is crucial, and victims can do so by focusing on and appreciating their own unique set of skills, experiences, and attributes. It can be empowering to learn about gaslighting and abusive relationships. Understanding the methods used by gaslighters can give victims much-needed clarity and perspective. As a result, individuals may realize that the abuse was not their fault and that their feelings and behaviors were entirely natural given the extreme circumstances. The process of healing also includes setting limits. It may be necessary for victims to set clear boundaries with the gaslighter or even stop communicating with them altogether, if doing so is safe. Building a secure and accepting atmosphere is crucial for restoring confidence and shielding oneself against further influence. Participating in therapy or support groups created for survivors of gaslighting can be quite helpful. These groups are great places to talk to people who understand what you're going through, validate your feelings, and offer advice. Counseling can help victims of gaslighting learn coping mechanisms, restore their sense of self-worth, and recover from any emotional trauma they may have experienced. Recognizing and addressing gaslighting as a society is crucial. By shedding light on the issue, we can aid victims in feeling heard and understood and pave the way for better, more mutually respectful relationships between people. A culture that rejects gaslighting and enables individuals to accept their own reality can be established through the promotion of education, empathy, and support. When recovering from the effects of gaslighting, it can be helpful to revisit the things that once brought you joy and fulfillment. Victims can rebuild their sense of purpose and self-confidence by taking part in activities that bring them joy, pursuing hobbies, or investigating new paths to personal growth. Rebuilding self-confidence involves taking tiny steps, like celebrating those steps along the way. Having well-defined limits in place is crucial in any setting. It's critical to develop the ability to confidently say no without feeling bad about it, to establish reasonable limits for oneself, and to surround oneself with others who respect and uphold those limits. Victims can rebuild their sense of self-worth and reclaim agency by focusing on their own needs and taking care of themselves. Getting over the effects of gaslighting is a uniquely transforming experience. It takes time, care for oneself, and dedication to one's own health. Victims can go on, rediscover their real selves, and construct a life based on truth and self-empowerment by regaining their sense of self, rebuilding trust, and surrounding themselves with supportive relationships. How narcissists typically employ gaslighting strategies. Denial is a typical gaslighting tactic. The narcissist may refuse to acknowledge or take responsibility for their own behavior, feelings, or the impact they've had on their victim. They may stubbornly refuse to acknowledge any wrongdoing on their part, leading the victim to doubt his or her own sanity. The narcissist retains control over the victim by making them doubt their own experiences. Selective memory is another strategy. When something doesn't go according to the narcissist's plan, they may choose to forget about it. The victim may be left wondering what really happened since the perpetrator has reinterpreted or reshaped the facts to fit their story. The goal of this strategy is to make the victim question their sanity and their own memories. Blame shifting is a common strategy used by narcissists. By shifting the blame or looking for extenuating circumstances, they avoid taking ownership of their conduct. They can say that the victim provoked them or that their reactions were justified by the victim's behavior. The narcissist further undermines the victim's sense of self-worth by making them feel guilty, responsible, or at fault. Narcissists are experts at invalidation, a technique used to undermine the sentiments and emotions of their victims. The victim's feelings may be discounted or dismissed as overdramatic or illogical. The target of this strategy is made to doubt their own feelings and lose faith in their own judgment. The narcissist may even try to make the victim feel bad about expressing their feelings. Confusion and contradiction are further gaslighting tools. The victim of a narcissist may feel lost and uncertain since the narcissist regularly changes their position or presents contradicting facts. If they make a promise or declaration and then back out of it, the victim may start to doubt their own recollection of the events. The narcissist's goal in using this strategy is to maintain power and control over the victim. And narcissists frequently resort to attacking their victim's sense of worth and confidence. The abuser may repeatedly attack the victim's character, causing them to question their own worth as a person. The narcissist maintains power and control over the victim by undermining the victim's sense of self-worth, so that the victim must continue to look to the narcissist for approval. Isolating the victim is another component of gaslighting. The narcissist may try to influence the victim's friendships and networks by sowing seeds of doubt and discord. It's possible they'll say others are conspiring against the victim or that no one else can relate to their plight. The victim's ability to seek help or leave the abusive relationship is hampered by the narcissist's efforts to isolate them. Narcissists' gaslighting tactics, in general, are intricate and multifaceted. They prey on the victim's weaknesses, distort reality, and destroy their sense of security and worldview. Understanding these strategies is crucial to ending the abuse and regaining one's independence. Seeking help from reliable friends, family, or experts is essential if you or someone you know is experiencing gaslighting or other forms of abuse. One common tactic of narcissists is called trivialization, which is dismissing the importance of the victim's problems, accomplishments, or aspirations. They may try to make the victim feel like they have nothing to be concerned about by dismissing their issues or minimizing their achievements. This strategy serves to strengthen the narcissist's grip on power by reducing the victim's sense of self-worth and self-assurance. Narcissists can also use gaslighting by proxy, a method in which they enlist the help of other people to continue the gaslighting, either unwittingly or on purpose. By convincing others to disbelieve the victim's account of what happened or how they see things, the abuser can build a base of believers for his or her warped worldview. This furthers the victim's sense of isolation and lends credence to the narcissist's story. Narcissists may also resort to love bombing as a weapon. They lavish the victim with excessive praise, affection, and attention during the beginning of the relationship or during the reconciliation phase. The purpose of this overpowering display of devotion is to build a strong emotional connection and dependence. Narcissists often resort to different gaslighting techniques once their victims have become emotionally invested in them. This leaves them pining for the narcissist's initial attention and wondering if they are worthy of receiving it again. Narcissists are also notorious for minimization or rationalization of their abusive actions. They can say the victim is being oversensitive or exaggerating the significance of the situation. They might also try to explain away their bad behavior by blaming it on the victim's imperfections or on some outside force. The narcissist continues the gaslighting process by making the victim's view of the abuse more ambiguous by normalizing the abusive behavior. Chronic lying is a tactic used by narcissists to mislead and confuse their victims. They can make something up, change the facts, or even lie to get their point. As a result of the narcissist's persistent deception, the victim loses the ability to tell reality from fiction. The narcissist's grip on the victim's sense of reality is strengthened through this strategy. The psychological and emotional toll of a narcissist's gaslighting tactics can be severe and long-lasting. Realizing you're being manipulated is the first step towards obtaining help from friends, family, or professionals. Setting healthy boundaries, restoring self-confidence, and caring for one's mental health are all important steps towards recovering from the impacts of gaslighting. How to spot and handle gaslighting. Consistent denial or dismissal of your feelings, experiences, or thoughts is a telltale sign of gaslighting. They can make you doubt the sincerity of your feelings by dismissing them. In order to look innocent or to cast doubt on your recollection or judgment, gaslighters frequently manipulate situations. Selective amnesia, distraction, and putting the blame on you are other strategies they may employ. In order to deal with gaslighting, you must rely on your own judgment and be true to who you are. First, acknowledge and accept your feelings and past experiences. Keep in mind that you are entitled to being heard and respected for your feelings. Create a network of people you can count on, whether they be friends, family, or professionals, to listen to you and affirm your feelings. Learn the signs and techniques of being gaslight or manipulated. If you know how gaslighters think, you can better spot and stop them in the act. Be sure to record the dates, times, and details of each gaslighting occurrence in a journal. Putting your thoughts down on paper might help you gain perspective and keep you grounded in reality. It requires patience and kindness to oneself to rebuild trust after being gaslight. Get started by listening to and trusting your gut. Take part in some form of introspective and healing practice, such meditation, journaling, or psychotherapy. If you've been the victim of gaslighting, it's important to actively seek out and implement positive affirmations and self-talk. Doing things that make you feel good about yourself and give you confidence can help, too. Put yourself in an environment where you can feel safe sharing your experiences and boundaries are respected. Take part in activities that make you happy and proud of what you've accomplished. Seeing a therapist who has training in trauma and abuse can be quite helpful in some situations. A therapist can help you work through the effects of gaslighting on your psyche, restore your faith in yourself, and learn effective methods for moving forward. Be kind and patient with yourself as you travel the long road to recovery from gaslighting. I believe in your ability to restore your sense of self and rebuild trust in yourself. Therefore, I encourage you to celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how tiny. Setting firm limits and learning to stand up for yourself are crucial steps on the road to restoring your faith in yourself. Because gaslighters feed off of controlling and manipulating others, setting clear limits and communicating them can be an effective way to restore your independence. Learn to effectively and clearly express your boundaries by practicing expressing no when appropriate. Restoring faith in yourself also requires putting forth the effort to educate yourself. Gain knowledge of how to interact well with others, how to communicate effectively, and how to establish yourself. With this information at your disposal, you'll be better able to spot positive traits in others and set appropriate limits in your relationships. Think deeply on who you are and what you value so that you can better understand your own views and qualities. Appreciate yourself and your accomplishments, no matter how trivial they may seem. Create a pleasant environment by associating with upbeat, encouraging people. Develop kindness and tolerance for yourself and others. It's crucial to recognize and work through the hurt caused by gaslighting. Recognize that the gaslighter's behavior was not your fault and that you are worthy of benevolence and understanding. Allow yourself time to recover and try to avoid beating yourself up over what happened. Acknowledge and enjoy even the smallest of gains along the way. Appreciate the steps you've taken towards developing your intuition, establishing healthy boundaries, and standing up for yourself. Every little bit helps when it comes to regaining confidence in yourself. Your resilience and self-assurance will grow over time as you invest in your relationship with yourself. Have faith in your own eyes, heart, and mind. Have faith in your abilities to handle interpersonal situations and make ethical choices. Recognize and value the power that comes from being true to yourself. Chapter 6. Building Boundaries. Setting boundaries enables people to express their needs, wants, and constraints in an open and honest manner. We have the ability to define what is acceptable to us and what is not when we set limits for ourselves. By doing so, we provide a place where people can be themselves without being judged or mistreated. Having clear boundaries is crucial to ensuring that both partners are giving and receiving in a relationship. Without limits, it's easy for people to become too intertwined or dependent on one another to the point where their identities blur and they stop prioritizing their own needs. Having clear boundaries in a relationship can help each partner feel more secure in their own identity and strengthen the bond between them. Setting limits and sticking to them fosters compassion and understanding between people. By laying out our ground rules for our relationship, we can let our partner know what we expect from them and inspire them to do the same. By sharing our thoughts and feelings openly, we can better understand one another and develop compassion. It's useful for avoiding the unpleasantness that can result when expectations aren't met or boundaries are crossed. Setting appropriate limits can also improve one's mental health. They serve as a buffer between ourselves and any potential emotional abuse, manipulation, or harm. Having clear boundaries makes us less prone to put our emotional needs on the back burner for the sake of a connection. We have the ability to recognize and change the habits that lower our sense of self-worth, mental health, and contentment. Setting limits helps us prioritize our emotional demands and keep our equilibrium. Boundaries also foster development and introspection within a relationship's participants. By establishing and maintaining safe space for ourselves, we may grow and flourish as unique individuals. In turn, this improves our ability to make positive and fulfilling contributions to the connection. Boundaries allow each person to develop their own sense of identity and autonomy while yet being supported by their relationship. Overall, respect for oneself, one's own emotional well-being, and the growth and development of one's relationships with others depend on the establishment and maintenance of healthy boundaries. It enables us to keep our individuality intact while cultivating a profound and meaningful bond with our loved ones. By being open and honest about what we want, value, and can give to a relationship, we can foster an atmosphere that benefits everyone involved. Relational accountability and responsibility are also fostered by maintaining healthy boundaries. Everyone is responsible for their own conduct and knows the repercussions of going against the rules. Integrity and respect are nurtured when partners commit to sticking to their word about things like this. An atmosphere of mutual respect and responsibility is fostered, with both parties making an effort to keep things harmonious. Setting and keeping healthy boundaries also facilitates effective conflict resolution. Disagreements and disputes are normal in any relationship, but having boundaries in place makes it easier to work through them in a positive way. Having clear boundaries in place can help couples work through their differences in a way that benefits everyone involved. They promote an environment where disagreements can be resolved in a constructive and growth-oriented manner, reducing the likelihood of destructive habits like anger, manipulation, or avoidance. Having strong boundaries also helps you feel more secure and valued in your relationships. Setting and upholding boundaries tells both you and your spouse that you value yourself and your own wants and feelings enough to demand to be treated as such. As a result of this confidence boost, we are more able to stand up for ourselves and make decisions that benefit our relationship. Having solid boundaries also helps people maintain their unique identities when interacting with others. It's crucial to remember that even in a committed relationship, each partner retains their individuality. Boundaries make sure that both people in a relationship have room to develop their own identities, follow their own interests, and keep in touch with others outside of it. Relationships flourish when both partners are allowed to be themselves and to develop and change through time. Boundaries also permit the growth of healthy dependence among relationship members. It promotes people's liberty while also encouraging them to help each other develop and thrive. Partners can foster a mutually supportive relationship characterized by mutual reliance on one another for emotional support, friendship, and collaboration by establishing and upholding clear limits. How to set and enforce limits with toxic people. First and foremost, believe in yourself and your value. Realize that you are deserving of positive treatment and constructive connections. Having such confidence will serve as a rock upon which you may safely set and maintain limits. The next step is to pinpoint the person's precise activities that are upsetting you or crossing your limits. Make it absolutely clear what you will and will not tolerate. This specificity will help you articulate your limits more clearly. You should be calmly assertive without coming out as hostile while expressing your boundaries. Instead of attacking or blaming the narcissist, try expressing your feelings and needs using I phrases. Pay attention to how you feel as a result of their actions and what you would like to see altered as a result. Be ready for pushback or efforts to manipulate you. Narcissists may test your limits or disregard your worries in an attempt to get your approval. Maintain your resolve in setting limits, no matter how they respond. Always keep in mind that you are in charge of your own health and safety. Anticipate resistance and attempts to test your limits. The narcissist may try to see how far you will go by pushing your limits or disregarding them. Maintain your integrity and set firm limits as required. You can do this by restating your limits, changing the subject, or reducing your interaction with the other person. Put your health first and engage in self-care. It's important to take care of oneself emotionally when establishing boundaries, as doing so might be difficult. Get help from someone you trust, such as friends, family, or professionals. Do things that make you happy, help you relax, and strengthen your resolve. When establishing boundaries with narcissists, it's crucial to be alert to the fact that they might try to manipulate you. The following are some additional methods that have proven useful in similar situations. Keep your feet on the ground. Narcissists typically lie, gaslight, or manipulate the truth in order to maintain power and control. Have faith in your own judgment and use data to back up your claims. Document instances of boundary crossing for future use. Keep your distance from power struggles. Narcissists feed off of rivalry and adulation. Don't waste time debating or trying to prove a point. Keep your cool and work on establishing yourself without losing your temper. Keep in mind that if they try to get you involved in a power struggle, you have the option to walk away. Make it clear what will happen if your boundaries are crossed, and be ready to follow through. Narcissists are less likely to test your boundaries if you demonstrate their importance through the use of consequences. If you're having trouble setting and keeping boundaries with a narcissist, it may be helpful to contact a therapist or counselor. Expert advice, specialized coping methods, and compassionate understanding are all things you may expect to receive from a skilled professional. Practice self-care to improve your mental and emotional health. Creating limits for yourself is an important part of self-care. Understanding our limitations and practicing assertive refusal will help us put our own needs first. Setting appropriate limits helps safeguard us from emotional and mental overload that can have a negative effect on our sense of self-worth. The importance of maintaining good mental health cannot be overstated. Meditation and other forms of mindfulness practice can help us become more in tune with ourselves and improve our outlook on life. Being able to step back and take an objective look at how we're feeling can do wonders for our mental health. Self-care also includes making time to pursue interests and passions. Pursuing what makes us happy and fulfilled strengthens our sense of identity by highlighting our individual strengths. Activities that foster a sense of success and allow us to express ourselves creatively include, but are not limited to, the visual arts, the written word, musical performance, and exploration of the natural world. Building supportive relationships and reaching out to them when you need help are also important parts of self-care. The people we spend the most time with have a significant influence on our sense of self-worth and mental health. Insights, direction, and validation can be gained by talking about our feelings with trusted friends or by consulting a professional when appropriate. Restoring one's sense of worth also requires regular sessions of self-compassion. Instead of being so hard on ourselves, we can train ourselves to be patient and forgiving. Changing how we feel about ourselves and giving ourselves more confidence can begin with accepting our value and believing we deserve to be loved and cared for. Self-care also entails confronting negative self-talk and paying close attention to our internal dialogue. It's crucial to become conscious of the critical thoughts and restrictive ideas that erode our confidence. We can progressively alter our view of ourselves and our level of self-assurance by intentionally reframing these thoughts into more positive and empowering ones. Taking time for introspection is another effective method of self-care. Aligning our behaviors with our true selves requires time spent contemplating our beliefs, aspirations, and personal growth. Regular introspection boosts our mental health and happiness by allowing us to see our situations more clearly, develop a deeper understanding of our values, and make more confident decisions. Small acts of self-care sprinkled throughout the day add up to a big difference. We can revitalize and refocus by taking little breaks to move around, breathe deeply, or enjoy a cup of tea with awareness. Mindfulness practices help us to focus on the here and now, alleviate stress, and develop a healthy self-image. Gratitude is a great self-care practice. By pausing to count our blessings, we can redirect our attention from what we lack to that which we have plenty of. The good effects on one's sense of self-worth and mental health can be amplified via the practice of cultivating a grateful attitude. Seeking out new experiences and knowledge is also an important part of self-care. Learning new things and participating in pursuits that interest us gives us a sense of accomplishment and helps us feel like we have a place in the world. Learning something new, whether through courses, books, or a new interest, helps us grow as people and boosts our confidence. Chapter 7. Leaving a toxic relationship. First, you must see and accept the relationship's poison. Think about any recurring acts of mistreatment, manipulation, or emotional suffering in your life. The realization that you deserve more will fortify your decision to quit. Don't hesitate to reach out for help from people you trust, whether they be friends, family, or professionals. Tell them everything you're going through since they have a new viewpoint and can help you keep your eye on the prize of escaping the poisonous relationship. Make a strategy to safeguard your well-being on all fronts, including physical, mental, and financial. As part of this strategy, you may make arrangements to stay with a friend or family member, or in a shelter if you feel unsafe in your current location. You should start preparing for the procedure of separation by gathering vital documents, such as identity, financial records, and any evidence of abuse. Get your financial house in order so that you may live on your own. If you don't already have one, open a personal bank account and make sure you can cover your short-term expenses. Seek legal counsel to learn about your rights and choices for dividing assets if you and your partner shared financial responsibility. It's crucial to put your own needs first at the moment. Do things that make you happy, help you relax, and make you feel good about yourself. It takes bravery, fortitude, and time to leave a toxic relationship. So be patient with yourself and remember to practice self-compassion. Eat well, get enough of exercise, and contact a doctor if you have mental health issues that are preventing you from living your best life. Arrange to have a talk with your spouse about your decision to leave at a time when you both feel ready to have the conversation. Communicate your limits openly and confidently. Don't get into debates or disputes with someone who could try to manipulate you or make you feel bad about yourself. Keep in mind that you owe your significant other no more explanation than you feel comfortable giving. It's important to follow through with your stated departure time and date once you've given notice. If your ex-partner has a history of abuse or control, it is best to put some distance between the two of you and have as little contact as possible. Limit their access to your life by changing your locks, blocking their number, and changing your privacy settings on social media. If you want to recover from the trauma and rediscover who you are, therapy or counseling may be helpful. A therapist can help you through the difficult time following ending an abusive relationship by providing guidance, support, and coping mechanisms. The bottom line is that getting out of a bad relationship successfully calls for preparation, backup, and attention to one's own needs. Successfully navigating the process of leaving and moving towards a life of happiness, peace, and personal growth is possible via recognition of the toxicity, finding assistance, making a safety plan, prioritizing self-care, and being gentle with yourself. You are recovering your power and making a better future for yourself by realizing that you deserve love, respect, and a good relationship. Self-reflection exercises as post-relationship rehabilitation tips. It can be difficult and upsetting to move on once a relationship ends. There are, thankfully, several methods available to aid in recovery from this challenging period. Let's take a relaxed approach to examining some of these methods. Recognize and allow yourself to feel whatever feelings come up first. If you've recently ended a relationship, give yourself time to grieve and feel all of the emotions that come with it. Emotions such as joy, happiness, rage, and relief are all possible. Allow yourself to experience what you feel without judging or punishing yourself. During this time, reaching out for help from others is essential. If you need to talk to someone about how you're feeling, reach out to those close to you. It's helpful to have someone you can talk to and get their honest opinion. They can lend an ear, show compassion, and give advice when asked. Think about talking to a therapist or a counselor about your problems. A therapist may help you work through your feelings, identify patterns in a relationship, and brainstorm potential solutions. They can help you recover and develop by giving you the resources and methods of coping that are best for you. Self-reflection activities can be an effective means of gaining wisdom and growth. Think about your place in the relationship and how you may improve it. Pondering such queries as, "What did I learn from this relationship?" is a good place to start. To what extent did I play a role in shaping its dynamics? Asking oneself, what do I truly care about? If you give some thought to these factors, you may gain insight into who you are and what you want from future romantic partnerships. Self-care is essential at this juncture in recovery. Focus on maintaining your health on all levels. Focus on things that make you happy and calm you down, like working out, engaging in a hobby, or spending time in nature. Being kind with oneself and allowing yourself to recover at your own time are acts of self-compassion. Put your energy into developing yourself as a person throughout this time. Make some fresh plans and discover some new passions. Learn who you are apart from the partnership. Spend time and money on things that make you feel good about yourself. Take advantage of chances to develop and reinvent yourself. Maintaining appropriate boundaries with your ex-partner is crucial, but so is putting your own needs first. Before considering contact or reconciliation, give yourself time to recover. Putting some space between you and the situation can help you gain perspective and put yourself first. Keep in mind that everyone has a different path to healing and that it takes time. As you work through the ups and downs of healing, remember to be kind and patient with yourself. Take care of yourself, surround yourself with supportive people, and look forward to the chance to go on and build a life you love. You may recover and go ahead with renewed strength and resilience through a combination of therapy, support networks, self-reflection activities, and self-care practices. Discovering fresh viewpoints and learning more about yourself can aid in your post-relationship healing process. Think about partaking in pursuits that encourage introspection and creative expression. Writing in a journal, engaging in a creative pursuit like painting or writing, or engaging in activities that force you beyond your comfort zone are all examples of this. Take this time to focus on yourself and rediscover interests and facets of yourself that may have taken a back seat during the relationship. Learning about healthy interpersonal dynamics might be helpful in addition to introspection. Learn more about the importance of good communication, emotional intelligence, and laying solid groundwork for future relationships by perusing relevant books and articles. With this information in hand, you'll be more equipped to make wise decisions and foster more fulfilling relationships moving forward. Keep in mind that recovery is not a straight line. There will be happy times and sad times along the path. Both are to be expected. Let yourself feel these emotions fully without condemning yourself, and focus on how far you've come. Honor every step forward in your recovery, no matter how tiny. It's essential to surround yourself with encouraging and optimistic individuals right now. You might benefit from finding a support group or a community online where you could talk to people who understand what you're going through. When you tell your experience, listen to others, and provide support, you remind yourself that you are not alone in your recovery. Learn to be kind and forgiving to yourself. Release whatever feelings of guilt or hatred you have, both for yourself and your ex. The ability to forgive frees up emotional space for healing, even if it doesn't entail forgetting. Be patient with yourself. Recovery from trauma is a process that unfolds over time. As you move on in your post-relationship healing process, it's crucial that you prioritize restoring your sense of self-worth and confidence. Spend some time reflecting on the things you do well and the things you care about. Positive affirmations and self-compassion should be daily practices. Just as you would do for a close friend, be patient and nice to yourself. Get out there and meet new people so you can broaden your circle of support. Find someone to spend time with who will encourage and inspire you. Participate in local or regional groups that share your passions. Participating in group outings can help you reconnect with others who value you for who you are and restore your feeling of community. Think about establishing limits, not just with your ex, but with everyone in your life. Determine your level of confidence, and then express your needs directly and confidently. Emotional safety can be maintained, and future relationships can be established on a firm foundation of mutual respect and understanding with the help of boundaries. Spend some time thinking about how you can rethink your aspirations. Take advantage of this time of change to reevaluate your life goals and establish some new ones. Put your energy towards developing yourself, whether that means getting a better job, going back to school, or discovering a new interest. Take use of your independence to create the life you want. Develop an attitude of thankfulness and optimism. Think about all the things you have to be thankful for. Being grateful encourages a good outlook on life and helps you see the bright side of things. Maintaining this frame of mind can be aided by doing daily reflection exercises like keeping a gratitude notebook. Keep in mind that recovery takes time, and it's acceptable to seek outside assistance if you feel you need it. The road to healing after a breakup can be difficult, but therapy or counseling can help smooth the way. A therapist can assist in the identification of problems, the processing of negative feelings, and the development of strategies for a more positive and productive future.